suppose the question is, how does a composer sound impressionistic? There's a wonderful painting by Georges Seurat, great pointillist, called Sunday at La Grande Jatte. Picture of a lot of various people on the shore of the lake having a good time, and from a distance that's exactly what you see. But if you creep up closer and closer to the painting, you see mostly a series of dots, and it's extraordinary how your eye can combine all of these details, all these dots, into an impression of people at the park. I guess that's where impressionistic comes from. And in La Mer, Debussy does very much the same thing. From a distance, if you're sitting in the audience, you get the impression of something going on. But if you look at the score and see how he actually scores these sounds, you'll be amazed to see how much detail is in the blurring. For example, here on this first page of the score, the work starts rather ambiguously. There's just a timpani roll on the B, and the basses are doubling it. Then the harps come in. There are two harps, and they play the same two notes, but a beat apart. So it sounds like this. So already there's a little bit of blurring and a little bit of stereo effect. And to make it even more of a blur, he has the cellos come in playing the same two notes, but an entirely different rhythm. They play so when you add it together, again, same notes, but lots of blurring. Etc., etc. Then to make things even more ambiguous, there's a viola melody that creeps in here, and the viola is almost unnoticed at the beginning. And if you'd like to play that, I will try to accomplish the cello and the harp lines underneath. So,
okay.
So the beginning goes like this. Etc., etc. Now, what's very unusual about that is that the violas are playing basically 2 beats per note, while everyone else has been playing 3 plus 3. The violas are playing 2 plus 2 plus 2. So 6 beats in each bar, but again, some blurring of the rhythm. So the whole opening, this is just the first 5 bars of La Mer, is filled with all these incredible details, rhythmic ambiguities, a blur, a wash of sound, giving the impression maybe of very, very simple laps of water overlapping at the shore or something like that. It certainly gives a calm impression.
What's different about this section of La Mer?
Well, for one thing, there are more instruments involved, and it comes in the last of the 3 movements, after a rather nasty climax, very stormy climax, and the storm goes away, and what we're left with are some random sounds, but extraordinarily beautiful sounds, rather calm after the storm. And what makes up this calm, again, a series of rather amazing details, but put together it creates a blur of sound, again an impression of what's going on. For example, while I can't duplicate it on the piano, there are 2 harps involved here, and they're basically just playing a series of alternating thirds back and forth. This is the second harp register. The first harp will enter every other beat with an octave higher. So together you hear one register, then another register, just shades of light coming in and out.
And there's an accumulation that way too.
Exactly, that's right. And the harp's resonance creates that too. In the first violins, they're playing a harmonic A flat way up here, which creates sort of a whistle sound, very magical whistle sound. Below, the cellos are tremoloing D flat, A flat. So they're playing the fifth. The bass just sustains the D flat. And when you put it all together, of course, again, I can't quite demonstrate it, but just outlining a D flat major chord, no problem. Then comes a rather extraordinary moment. We have this very, very beautiful melody played by not just the flute alone, and not just the oboe alone, but the flute and the oboe together. I think that if this were a lesser composer, you'd probably have only one of those instruments playing. But Debussy is the master of color and of sound. And he knows if you put the flute and the oboe together on the same notes in this register very quietly, you get a flobo, I guess, or you get a sound of an amalgamated instrument that doesn't exist really, but it makes an amazing color. And Tony, if you'd like to play this melody, it has a sense of, underneath this D flat, has a sense of longing.
Very much so.
These little half-step longings, and then whole step longings. Right. These appoggiaturas really play with your emotions a little bit.
Very much so.
Yeah. And again, more details that are quite amazing. Even though they're playing the same note in the same register, the flute plays 1, 3, 1, 3. The oboe plays 1, 2, 3. So you put it together, it's not quite the same. They're not playing the exact same rhythm, therefore blurring the melody even further.
Churning of the water underneath.
Exactly, and it continues that way. The flute plays only on 1 and 3, and the oboe plays 1, 2, 3. And this blurring continues and continues and continues. And as the line goes, the melody starts to descend, if you want to demonstrate there. And right, the oboe is playing twice as many notes as the flute. And while you're descending, the second violins and the clarinet are ascending chromatically. Together it sounds like. And they almost descend upon one another. Again, yet another sense of blurring. There are a couple of other touches here in this melody that you just played very beautifully. The second violins come in with a tremolo playing the same notes, but in a different rhythm. Again, yet another layer. There are 3 layers of blurring in this melody. And the bar later, the French horn, in the middle of all this longing, the B flat is sustained. Another resonance within the orchestra, but putting it all together, you get this wonderful warm sound. Again, hard to pick out details, but altogether it's an extraordinary picture.
Very much so. An extraordinary amalgam of sound, of sand, and of water, I suppose.
Indeed.
Great. Well, thanks so much.
Sure.